Greetings tonight, everyone. Mai Gavanen, which means well met in Tolkien's language. And we are going to be discussing a little bit about elves. And if you're interested, I have a 3-part series of Kindness of Elves. So you can actually go and see that yourself. But this is going to be us kind of talking about the Light Triad personality. And what I have found in my own observations of life is that I believe that kindness is a very powerful way of experiencing enlightenment. In fact, everybody is doing all these spiritual practices trying to reach enlightenment. And I feel that maybe just kindness is just the easiest way. Although kindness itself is sometimes not easy, because it's hard to sometimes be kind in certain situations, but through discipline and, holding back some of your ideas in order to be kind and not hurt others and to find a wiser way to express yourself is really a great reward because you don't hurt anybody. And that in itself is a reward. So we're going to discuss a little bit about the Light Triad personality. But before I begin, I wanted to start with a wonderful quote. I really love that Tolkien wrote many of his elven characters with kindness as part of their personality, and also the other characters such as the wizards and hobbits. It seemed that Tolkien really regarded kindness as a virtue. It's something that anybody can have, poor, rich. It's really just a matter of being aware and really aware of how you treat others. So here is one of my favorite quotes about Elrond, the Lord of Rivendell. He was noble and as fair in face as an elf lord, as strong as a warrior, as wise as a wizard, as venerable as a king of dwarves, and as kind as summer. So one of the things that Elrond is known for is that he has this realm, Rivendell, which is really a place for all the weary to go to. And it is a place of rest, and you will feel healed when you go to it and stay there for a while. And it's because of this energy of Elrond. And so I'm going to show you a part in the fellowship before we begin on the Light Triad personality. Alas, no, said Elrond. We cannot use the ruling ring. That we now know too well. It belongs to Sauron and was made by him alone and is altogether evil. Its strength, Boromir, is too great for anyone to wield at will, save only those who have already a great power of their own. But for them it holds an even deadlier peril. The very desire of it corrupts the heart. Consider Saruman. If any of the wise should with this ring overflow, the Lord of Mordor using his own arts, he would then set himself on Sauron's throne, and yet another dark lord would appear. And that is another reason why the ring should be destroyed. As long as it is in the world, it will be a danger even to the wise. For nothing is evil in the beginning. Even Sauron was not so. I fear to take the ring to hide it. I will not take the ring to wield it. Nor I, said Gandalf. The reason why I read you that part is because we see here a very important part of the Light Triad personality, which I'm going to be reading to you soon. The idea that he said, for nothing is evil in the beginning. Even Sauron was not so. So he is even taking the master of evil. He's actually a student of Melkor, and he's trying to spread his complete darkness over Middle-earth and enslave these other beings and basically dominate completely. Yet Elrond is even able to see the good in him in the beginning but he knows that the ring itself, this object of power, which really symbolizes power itself, whether you want power politically, power over others, power with money, power just domination emotionally over others, it can be very seductive to people. So the ring represents that. So Elrond is able to actually go even beyond that desire for power and see even the good that was once in Sauron. Now, this is a very particular type of ability to see the good in others. So I have some very exciting news. I was really excited to learn about the Light Triad personality. Many of you might have heard about the Dark Triad personality, and that has been researched since, I think, early 2000s. People have been talking about it. So I'm going to go through this article here with you so you can read it with me, and let's discuss. So this is the Light Triad versus Dark Triad of personality. This is from the Scientific American website, so you can check it out yourself. It's a very interesting article. And it starts out, I still believe in spite of everything that people are truly good at heart. Anne Frank. So the little girl who was killed during the Holocaust. But we know if we've ever read her book in school, she really believed in the goodness of others, even though she was going through such a hard time in her own life. But here's a comparison of the Dark Triad personality. What's one less person on the face of the earth anyway? Ted Bundy, the serial killer who killed many people in America. So I'm not going to read you the part about the Dark Triad, but there's a lot of information about the Dark Triad already. So let's get into this here. While research on dark personalities has certainly contributed to our understanding of the darker side of human nature and how each of us differs in the extent to which we consistently exhibit dark patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors in our daily lives, what about the light side of human nature? Everyday saints, socially aversive people certainly exist, but what about everyday saints? I'm not talking about the person who publicly does a lot of giving and receives many public accolades and awards for all of their giving, and who constantly gives to the others in order to achieve personal success. I'm talking about the person who just by their being shines their light in every direction. The person who isn't constantly strategic about their giving, but who admits unconditional love naturally and spontaneously because that's just who they are. So this is what we set out to find out. Through many email exchanges and personal meetings, David, Elizabeth, and I looked at existing tests of the Dark Triad and brainstormed a variety of items relating to the conceptual opposite characteristics of each member of the Dark Triad. But we created items that weren't simply the reverse of the Dark Triad items. And excuse me, I should tell you that this is actually written by a psychologist. His information is down here below. Scott Barry Kaufman, who has his PhD in humanistic psychology, and he's at the Columbia University, NYU. So he worked with these other professionals to kind of discover, well, what is the light side of humanity? And, you know, the people that we know that have given so much of themselves, is that a particular type of personality? So our initial pool of items related to forgiveness, trust, honesty, caring, acceptance, and seeing the best in people and getting intrinsic enjoyment from making connections with others instead of using people as a means to an end. To our surprise, we hadn't expected there to necessarily be factors. 3 distinct factors emerged from our studies, which we labeled Kantianism, treating people as ends unto themselves, not mere means, and humanism, valuing the dignity and worth of each individual, and faith in humanity, believing in the fundamental goodness of others or humans. So here is what they say about it. So Kantianism is treating people as ends unto themselves, like everything I just read, not mere means. And then we have humanism, the value and the dignity and the worth of each individual. You always keep that in mind. And the faith in humanity, somebody who actually believes in the fundamental goodness at heart with everybody. They believe that everybody has goodness in them, or that they have a good core, and they just believe in the good of people. So after a series of refinements of our initial items and sophisticated statistical analysis conducted by Eli Tuksiyami, we settled on 12 items that capture the essence of this light triad. You can take the light triad scale here, so you can actually see yourself if you do this test. We have now administered the Light Triad scale to thousands of people of different ages, genders, races, ethnicities, and the results are far-reaching. First, it is clear that the Light Triad is not merely the opposite of the Dark Triad. While the two are negatively related to each other, the relationship is only moderate in size, a correlation of about 0.50. So supporting the idea that there is at least a little bit of light and dark in each of us, in my view, it's best to view those who score extremely high on the dark triad, not as a separate species of human. After all, to have a dark side is to be human, but as magnified and unleashed versions of potentialities that lie within all of us. With that said, it seems like Anne Frank may have been onto something in the opening quote of this article. We calculated a light triad versus dark triad balance score for each participant by subtracting each person's score on the dark triad from their score on the light triad. The average balance score of the entire sample was 1.3, suggesting that the average person is tipped more towards the light relative to the dark in their everyday patterns of thoughts, behaviors, and emotions. As you can see in the scatter plot, extreme benevolence is extremely rare in the general population. Portraits of the light and dark triad. What about the contrasting profiles of the light and dark triad? We found that the dark triad was positively correlated with being younger, being male, being motivated by power, instrumental, sex, achievement, and affiliation, but not intimacy, having self-enhancement values, immature defense styles, conspicuous consumption, selfishness, and viewing their creative work and religious immortality as routes to death transcendence. The dark triad was negatively correlated with life satisfaction, conscientious agreeableness, self-transcendent values, compassion, and empathy. A quiet ego, a belief that humans are good, and a belief that one's own self is good. The dark triad also showed positive correlations with a variety of variables that could facilitate one's own agenetic related goals. For instance, the dark triad was positively correlated with utilitarian moral judgment and the strengths of creativity, bravery, and leadership, as well as assertiveness, in addition to motives for power, achievement, and self-enhancement. Also, an unexpected correlation between the dark triad and curiosity was found, which was localized primarily to the embracing, like to do things that are a little frightening. Let's go here. Interesting, after we controlled for the more antagonistic elements of the dark triad actually showed positive associations with a number of growth-oriented outcomes. This is more in the dark, but here we are. In stark contrast, the overall picture provided by the pattern of correlations with the light triad was quite different than the dark triad. The light triad was associated with being older, being female, less childhood unpredictability, as well as higher levels of religiosity or spirituality, life satisfaction and acceptance of others, belief that others are good, belief that oneself is good, compassion, empathy, openness to experience, conscientious, positive enthusiasm, having a quiet ego, and a belief that one can live on through nature, and biosociality, having children after one's personal death. Individuals scoring higher on the light triad scale also reported more satisfaction with their relationships, competence, and autonomy, and they also reported higher levels of secure attachment style and eros in their relationships. In general, the light triad was related to being primarily motivated by intimacy and self-transcendent values. Many character strengths correlated with the light triad, including curiosity, perspective, zest, love, kindness, teamwork, forgiveness, and gratitude. Note the flavor of curiosity associated with the Light Triad. Stretching. I actively seek as much information as I can in new situations. I view challenging situations as an opportunity to grow and learn. Differed from the flavor of curiosity associated with the Dark Triad, primarily embracing and deprivation. Mature defense styles were also associated with the Light Triad: humor, sublimation, altruism, anticipation, as were optimistic beliefs about the self, the world, and one's future. Individuals scoring higher on the Light Triad scale also reported higher self-esteem, authenticity, and a stronger sense of self. In general, the Light Triad does not appear to be associated with any obvious downsides, with a few possible exceptions depending on the context. The Light Triad was negatively correlated with the motives for achievement and self-enhancement, even though the Light Triad was positively related to productivity and competence. In terms of character, strengths, unlike the Dark Triad, the Light Triad was uncorrelated with bravery or assertiveness. Such characteristics may be important for reaching one's more challenging goals and fulfilling self-actualization. Additionally, in the line with our predictions, the Light Triad was related to greater interpersonal guilt, including survivor. I sometimes feel I don't deserve the happiness I achieved. Or separation. It makes me anxious to be away from home too long. And omnipotent responsibility. I worry a lot about the people I love, even when they seem to be fine. Forms of guilt. While it may be adaptive to experience these forms of interpersonal guilt for facilitating relationships and repairing damage in a relationship, these forms of guilt may limit one's ambitions for fear of succeeding while others remain less successful. The Light Triad was also correlated with greater reaction formation, which is considered by some psychologists as a neurotic defense style, but which I conceptualize in my own work as an aspect of mature altruism. The reaction formation scale consisted of the following items. If someone mugged me and stole my money, I'd rather he be helped than punished, and I often find myself being very nice to people who by all rights I should be angry with. While having such loving kindness, even for one's enemies, is conducive to one's own well-being, these attitudes, coupled with greater interpersonal guilt, could make those scoring higher in the Light Triad potentially more open to exploitation and emotional manipulation from those scoring higher on the Dark Triad. Indeed, we believe further investigation of the social interactions between extreme light versus the Dark Triad scores would be an interesting future line of research. Conclusion. There are definitely limitations of our studies and lots of areas for future research extending and developing our work. The 12-item Light Triad scale should be viewed as a first draft, and our 4 studies should be seen as more exploratory than definitive. Nevertheless, we hope our research helps balance the force in personality psychology. Yes, every day psychopaths exist, but so do everyday saints, and they are just as worthy of research, attention, and cultivation in a society that sometimes forgets that not only is there goodness in the world, but there is also goodness in each of us as well. So I really loved everything that they talked about here. And what I realized is that this will make a lot of sense to a lot of people in the idea that you may feel like you were just born to help others, that you feel like a calling, like you're constantly trying to help others. You're always thinking about them. This is altruism. And this is something that's not easily found in everybody, but eventually I feel like somebody who is altruistic, they realize within themselves that this is their gift, that they could actually take the time to give to others and they don't expect much in return. Altruism is something that we see in many of the people in history, such as Jesus and some of the ascended masters that we always look to. So in some ways, we can regard that ultimate kindness is also wisdom. And we see that with J.R.R. Tolkien's quote about Elrond. He was wise as a wizard, and also he was kind as the summer, warm as the sun, and Everything that we love about summer, he was warm and inviting to others. And this is the way that he described a lot of his characters. I believe that Tolkien really cared about the way that he portrayed this type of personality. So this is really exciting about finding out that there is an opposite to the dark triad personality. And what this means is that we can understand that if we are somebody that we're altruistic, we believe in the good of others, and we have all those three characteristics, which I can definitely go back to because that chart was really great here. If we believe in all of these characteristics that they say, Kantianism, humanitarianism, and the other one, faith in humanity. So that is really the three things that make you unique. But on the other side, you have the dark triad personality, which has narcissism and other types of different darker traits of personality. What I believe that they have figured out is that this is why those who are the kindest, because there's also a quote of Tolkien's that those who are the kindest are also the loneliest. And this is why, is because, yes, it's a rare part of the population to be a light triad personality, just as a rare part to be the dark triad personality. But the light triad personality is going to have an obstacle in their life. You know it, yin and yang, polarization. Finding out this will help people understand why certain personalities are drawn to you as a light. You know, you are a good person, you do good things for others, and you really try. But guess what? You always attract the narcissist. You always attract somebody that seems that they need a lot of healing in them. And this is why, is because you are the only one in the world that can see the good in them. So that's why they find you. Now, this is big because this means that there's healing abound for everyone in the idea that even the dark triad personality can heal. They just need to meet somebody who comes from the light triad personality, and they will be somehow influenced by their goodness and kindness. Because that's really all it takes, is for someone to sometimes believe in the goodness in you, to see the goodness in yourself. We are mirrors to each other. So the dark triad personality will seek out the light triad personality. And this is why the light triads, you have a very big challenge and a difficult life in this way. You are going to attract these people. So the elves, some of them hold this type of personality in them. Elrond is definitely an example. I won't say all of the elves, but I definitely think that Elrond is a very good example. Possibly even Galadriel is. And in fact, it sounded like Galadriel when they were describing what they found in their studies. Older female, you know, spirituality and all that, and very confident. So it seems that Tolkien was also bringing that in, the idea of Galadriel and Elrond were examples of this light triad personality, and now they're finding out. So if you resonate with the elves and you have always thought you're an elven soul, well, now there's another category for you to understand your life more. Why is it that you attract certain people into your life? It's because of this type of dynamic that you had. Because you believe so much in the good of others, you are the only one that can actually really see the good in those that are the darkest right now, so that you could help them see their own light and bring that light to them. So I thought this was a wonderful study. I'm so happy that they discovered this. This is amazing. And this is going to help a lot of souls out there. Those of you who consider yourself light workers, we're just regular, simple folk that are just trying to make a difference in the world, and you're just trying to be kind, and you're trying to, you know, help others. Well, now you can understand yourself more, which is great. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how the idea of kindness equates to enlightenment. Because you are living by this very strong idea within you that you see the good in others, and you also want to put others before you. And so you're constantly thinking about how your actions affect others. What that means is when you start to cultivate that experience, meaning that this is an actual way that you apply everyday kindness to your life, what this means is that you eventually will ingrain in your mind basically this experience of oneness and unity with others. And the goal of enlightenment is really to reach this union with all other beings and to remember the true self, which is in a state of oneness with everything around in an energetic field. So kindness is actually a very simple way of living and then eventually experiencing enlightenment. Now, it's not necessarily a spiritual path, it's not a religion, but it could be, because if you're somebody that practices kindness every day mindfully, it can become a spiritual path. Kindness is actually something that I am discovering is a lot more something that you have to cultivate and tend to. You're not just born with it. You could definitely be born with the Light Triad personality, but then you have to cultivate. You have to constantly kind of maintain. It's like a garden of flowers. So you're constantly maintaining this idea of kindness. And so what it means is that when others are unkind, when others are, when you see that, then you have to take basically their negativity and their energy, transmute it inside of you, and then bring healing words or something that changes the situation around so that you don't escalate them. And this is really the power, the superpower of kindness, is that it is actually a healing tool for others, especially those that feel like no one has ever been kind to them before. If they meet a stranger that is just kind to them for no reason, they don't want anything back, well, then this can be an eye-opening experience for somebody. To meet somebody that believes in the good of humanity and has faith in that way, it can really help others have faith again once in themselves. So this is a very simple way of experiencing enlightenment. So it's going to take a little bit of discipline. I have found it takes work, because you're not a robot. You can't turn off your emotions. So it's going to take work to cultivate kindness, to make it grow bigger within you as a value and as what you stand for. So it's about just being mindful and aware of others. And this altruistic idea is really to put others before you, but not in a self-sacrificing way, but just in a way that you make sure that you're always thinking about others, also in balance with yourself too. And you are not trying to hurt others, because empathy is involved here too. You might feel for them and not want to hurt them in their experience. But when you do this daily and you practice this, it's going to become almost like a spiritual path for you. And you practice this with mindfulness and self-discipline, it will bring you into a state of enlightenment that is not, it doesn't require you to meditate. And this is huge. This is kind of what I have discovered, is that it's really about experiencing oneness with others. So this is another path of enlightenment and reaching a place of wisdom, very high wisdom, that you see in characters like Elrond, who is known as one of the wisest beings of Arda, along with Galadriel. It is because they are wise and they are kind. And those two in balance, they go hand in hand in many ways. Because those who are wise, well, they're kind, because then they know the truth of the oneness and the unity factor between all other souls. It's like this ancient wisdom that they'll have inside of them, and then that will help them be kind as well as be wise. And you certainly can be wise without kindness. So it's about cultivating the kindness and the wisdom within yourself too. And that's what you see in Elrond and Galadriel. And this is something that everyone can really grow within themselves. Like I said, all it takes is just daily awareness and just being mindful of how you treat others. And this is something that I have observed in others and I have started to experience, is that this will bring you this sense of daily oneness, which is really a state of enlightenment. And this is because you're constantly reminding yourself when you get to the point where it becomes almost involuntary just to be kind, well, you're constantly in the state of reminding your subconscious to bring forward that divine side of yourself, because in the subconscious is both the demon and the angel side. So when you're kind, you're bringing out that subconscious angelic side, and you're bringing you further on the path to basically to reach this state of enlightenment and divine union with all things. So I hope that this gave you some inspiration, and to know that you're on the right path. If you're somebody that has felt that you have just sacrificed so much for others, and you have been somebody that really believes in the good of humanity, well, keep believing, because this is a part of the collective that we need. We need that balance in the world, because there's a lot of people that are somewhere in the middle where they don't quite have belief in humanity, or when they don't have belief in others or trust and faith in others. So those that are on the side of the very light part of the personality, and you live your life like that, well, that's a very needed part of the collective. And though, as it said, that sometimes you can lack confidence, you can have low self-esteem, and you could be somebody that is not really sure of themselves, but yet you constantly give of yourself. Well, if we can find some way to empower those individuals, they can be very powerful examples for others, even though they are. But if with a little bit of kindness, they can, with their confidence, they can bring out this kindness example for others. And that's what we see in the article, is that if they got to a point where they had this assertiveness, they can actually reach levels of success that others in the dark triad personality reach, because they're not afraid to basically get to the top and do anything they can to get to the top and become successful. But those that have the light triad personality, a lot of times they let people walk all over them, take advantage of them, and they get exploited. So if you could find a balance within you where you can allow yourself to be a humanitarian and altruistic, but also be confident and assertive, and know that, remember that your core is good and that you deserve happiness as much as all others that you give to, then you'd be, like I said, a very powerful example for the world, and a great healer and a helper to others. I think that these are the types of personalities that need to be put into power positions in the future and be given platforms to speak, and to basically to create organizations based on their humanitarianism. And so this is a really wonderful thing for those to understand themselves now. And now you know why you may attract certain people to you. It is because they themselves are seeking for the light, and you have the light as a light bearer with this light triad personality. And this is a gift. So cultivate every day that kindness within you, because everyone can actually grow this power of kindness within themselves. It's really just about being aware, and then that will bring you closer to a state of union with all things. And you will live in a state of being, very much like Elrond was in. And you could do so much for others, and as he did. And you can see that as an example within J.R.R. Tolkien stories. So let's go to the comments. I saw some of you pop on. Cara. Oh, Mike Vanen from Scotland. It's very nice to see you. I have a little bit of Scottish in me, so it's nice to have you. Greetings tonight. And on God, you believe in the goodness of people. Sometimes people act from their wounds and it makes them seem otherwise, but that's acting from pain, like being in a fog. Behind the fog, there is goodness. On God, it sounds like you are a Light Triad personality, because this is something that I have learned, that not everybody feels this way. So this is a gift. This is a gift that you have to give to the world. And this is something that, you know, a part of you that you can put forwards into the collective. So never forget that, you know, and definitely take a look a little bit deeper into the Light Triad scale and see where you lie on it. Noreen, I want to think people are good, but greed is a hell of a drug. Yeah, I mean, it's something, maybe you are born with it in terms of how you see the collective, because it's just something that you just have naturally in you. And that's okay, Naren. Like, we need those people in the middle, right? Like those that are skeptical of others and yet also believe in the good, because there's some balance there, and that's needed. We have a collective of all sorts of personalities. You want to talk about the spectrum. We have the dark triad personality, and we have the light triad personality, and then we have all those in the middle. And so this is a way to understand ourselves, you know, psychologically, basically more, those that are constantly giving themselves. And it's almost like they have to learn how to not basically drain themselves of their energy, because they're constantly giving of themselves. But it sometimes just comes very naturally. But we do need those in the middle. So don't push yourself to that point, and don't feel bad if you're not a Light Triad personality. It can be cultivated. It can definitely, I mean, I believe that nothing is static, right? Like, this universe is in perpetual motion, just like personalities are. So it just depends how far you want to take it. And like I said, it's just a matter of just watching your words, you know, watching your P's and Q's, and being polite, having certain manners, speaking your mind, you know, giving your point of view and things like that, but never using really harsh words or language to hurt others. That could be something that goes really big. Even though you want to express your anger, just make sure that you don't, you know, call other names or belittle or condescend. That can really help. And that is a good mindful practice of kindness, but also giving of yourself more, donating when you can, doing charity work, helping out those that are in need. This goes for animals as well as humans, you know, and just being there for others. So I appreciate your honesty, Naren, and it's okay, because we do need those in the middle. Meadow Faith, nice to see you. I must have some kind of Capricorn energy. I'm very committed. You know, my natal chart, do I have Capricorn? I have a lot of Libra. I know I have a lot of Libra. I don't know if I have Capricorn. I have Libra, Cancer, Pisces, but I'll have to go through and see if I have Capricorn. But you know what? I'm a life path 4, if that means anything. So yeah, that's all about establishing foundations and kind of being the worker in that way. But it's nice to see you, Meadow Faith. Thank you. And Meadow Faith, you're a great example. Meadow Faith is somebody who actually created this group to help others, other females, just basically empower them in their personal businesses. So this is a great example. It's just somebody that wants to help others and, you know, just really give their time and effort to empower people. So Meadow Faith, I'm pretty sure that you're probably somebody in the Light Triad here. So I'm glad that you were able to see this. And Robin Kohler, nice to have you. I see you're a new member, so welcome. The Elven Soul membership is all about actually transcending together, just learning about the ways that you can become enlightened. And we study messages and different spiritual teachings from around the world and esoteric wisdom. Actually, next week we're talking about Gnosticism and ascension in that way. So love to have you. Thank you so much for joining. It's great. Let's see any more comments here. And you're naturally trusting. Well, that's good. That's good if you can feel like you're naturally trusting. Yeah, I think that that's the seed, is if you have trust in others, it will eventually get you to the place where you believe in the goodness of others. So it's definitely there. It really is about experiences that shape us too. Although it is interesting though, because we can take some of the people that have had the worst experiences in humanity, such as maybe Jesus going through persecution as he did, and he would fit here in the Light Triad, and Frank. There are a lot of people that have been put through hell basically by others, and yet they still remain faithful in the goodness. So it's not necessarily about your experiences that shape you, but I do think that there's a factor there. But if you can almost keep the faith and the hope in the core of goodness in others, then that's what brings you over to the Light Triad personality. But yeah, if you want to keep that. Christopher Watson, I learned to set healthy boundaries because I hated saying no, but now I will say no when I mean no and yes when I mean yes. I used to put myself last, and I had to learn to put myself first, because we are able to be our best and are more effective in helping others. Absolutely agree, Christopher. Yes, because the Light Triad personality is all about giving to others. A lot of times we do have a hard time saying no, or that you experience that, right? And you're constantly, compromising in a way your own feelings. So that is exactly it. Setting those boundaries with others in a loving way, right? Like, I'm sure you found a way to not make people mad, but to, show them with love. No. And it was neat because there's defense styles of the Light Triad. So when you read this article a little bit more, if you want more information about it, the defense styles were humor and sublimation and kind of making things a little bit easier for others rather than, being really aggressive and being very defensive. So it's nice that there are some defensive styles that can help you with saying no in this type of personality. So it's just a matter of, just getting that confidence to just create those boundaries. And I think it happens when you start getting really tired, when you feel like others are just kind of taking advantage of you and you do feel exploited in some way. That's when you get the message, from the universe, like, okay, it's time to set some boundaries now. So I'm glad that you did. Mary Preston, my boyfriend and other people always say they love me for your big heart. Yeah, Mary Preston, this is good for you to know, I think, because knowing you, I think that this is something like with your posts on Facebook, you're always saying, why are people like this? Well, a Light Triad personality is going to experience the world in this way, like where they're trying to do the nice things, they're trying to help others, but others are not doing that because, do you see, it's a rare alignment on the spectrum of personalities, just as a Dark Triad personality is. That's very rare. So on the opposite side, you have the Light Triad. So it seems that a lot of people might not understand you, and you will feel lonely. And that's what Tolkien actually really nailed in that idea, that the kindest people are often the loneliest, because they're the ones that tend to feel very alone because they give of themselves to others, but they have to learn that they can't have as high expectations for others and almost like do it unconditionally. And then you'll stop feeling that kind of loneliness, because you'll understand where people are at and how they can't meet you at that same level. And you just give your big heart and do what you can, but set boundaries, because that's really important too. Faith, you said you need to sign up for membership. Yeah, I would love to have you. It's really growing. It's great. Fawn Pixie, do you think birthdays should be celebrated? Just want to hear thoughts. Mine is coming in 9 days. Oh, you mean in the membership? Or yes, I definitely think birthdays should be celebrated. Definitely. Oh, Fawn Pixie, that's a good point. Yes, if you're a bit naive and too trusting to the point of being gullible, then you can be exploited by others, and especially those that would take advantage of you that are part of the dark triad personality. Remember, this is very, very big, because we have this yin and yang effect of energy, because you symbolize this amount of this vibration of light in the light triad. You are going to attract those of the darkest, so that they can find the light within you. And then you can also learn a little bit of darkness too, and allow this balance to take place. And this is where the harmony is, because knowing the darker personalities helps a light triad person as well. They learn something about selfishness, which maybe they needed to learn in order to establish boundaries, to get a little angry maybe, but to be somebody that learns from the dark personalities. So you're going to meet those people, and yeah, you got to be aware, because they can take advantage of you. That experience can happen. You're not good at boundaries, but you're working on it. Yeah, I'm trying to. I'll probably have to make a video on making boundaries, because I know that it's very difficult, especially for empaths and those that feel deeply and part of the light personality, and those that really believe in the good of others. You need to somehow set boundaries for yourself, and it's something that I have worked on for quite a while, and I figured out how, but I could definitely make a video about it and just kind of, help you understand what are the practical ways to set boundaries, and it is an art to basically cultivate. It really is, because you have to learn how to discern between, yes, you can give to someone, or maybe that's just way out of your ability and you have to say no to them. Because if you end up saying yes to them, even though it's your limit, right? Financially, emotionally, energetically, you have to somehow find it in you to say no, although you want to say yes, because you could see it in their eyes and you don't want to hurt them. You have to find a way where you could just be more true and authentic to yourself. That's what I have found that helps. So Kara, I was abused as a child and suffered severe depression, but I still believe in humanity. In the veil of darkness, there are always flecks of light. Now I'm studying veterinarian medicine. Sounds like you are a light triad. And see, yes, even through that dark experience that you went through, it has made you stronger, suffering through that, but at the same time, you've never lost hope in people. So the light triad personality is really, I think, a very important study that they did. So I'm very grateful for these psychologists that decided, what's the opposite of the dark triad personality? Because we've heard about that, but that curiosity brought them. And so I'm sure they possibly have the light triad personality in some way, because they're trying to search for ways to help others. And Mary Preston, you haven't watched the video from the beginning? Okay, well, you can always rewatch it later. Don't worry about it. And anybody else? Oh, it's about seeing the good in people, mostly in this video. Yes, Naren, it is. And it's about how kindness is a way to reach a state of enlightenment, a state of union with all beings, because the more that you're kind to others, the more that you learn and have this realization that you're connected to all. And eventually you get to the point where you're just doing it all the time. And so it's a constant reminder of this oneness. And that state of being is really enlightenment. Fawn Pixie, it is okay to be sad temporarily for putting up boundaries and keeping a distance if it's up for you and the other's own good. Yes, it definitely is. Yes, you might feel a little bit of sadness, but eventually you might get to a point where you can just make boundaries and not feel sad about it, because you'll just see that you're not doing it with hate in your heart, or you're not trying to be mean. You're just finally understanding your own limits, and that's okay. That's completely okay to do. And in fact, it's more loving because, you know, as I think it was Charles said that Christopher Watson, as Christopher Watson said, you help more people that way. Because if you end up draining yourself doing too much, then what good are you then? So it's really about that, keeping that balance and that energy within you so that you can extend it to others. My board blog, new member to Elven Soul. Oh, I'm so happy. I welcome you. This is great. It's nice to meet new friends. Welcome. We'll talk about ascension and enlightenment together. And yeah, the whole point is basically to just keep mindful of it. Every 2 weeks, we do a private video together as members, and we just talk about a book, talk about spiritual messages from around the world. Peachy Fruit. Kindness is more gentle than cruelty, which is why it can sometimes be overlooked. Yes, that's very true. But in the grand scheme of life, it is more impactful to us. Right, it's that quiet power. It is a quieter power because it's not loud, you know, and you're not seeking for external power. But boy, it has a power of transforming others' lives. You know, giving to others of your time, your love, your effort. You are the one that has the power to help others. And to some people, well, that's a good life, spending that time doing. And that's when you're in the Light Triad. So this is really great because some people might just wonder, like, well, why am I constantly focusing on others? And why, you know, do I seem a little different in terms of what I want to do with my life? Well, now you know. Now you can embrace that as this is just you, that you're part of that collective of the earth, and here you are. This is your personality, and here's what you can do with it. So I think it's really helpful because it's going to help those that do have the superpower of kindness to be empowered more, I think, to come out into the world and to get to these positions where they can influence the world in a greater way. Because we know, and we talk about with the Dark Triad, a lot of times those are people that are in places of power. They get to a place of power because, well, they're able to find their way to the top without caring. Sometimes it's hard work, and it probably is hard work too. But there are some people that could get there because they took advantage of others and because they were greedy, as Naren said. So we need those with that quiet power of kindness in these places of really power now, so that power gets transformed into something more positive in a way. So yes, I definitely agree. It is a quiet power. Kimberly Victoria, this really helped me because I'm a Light Triad, and I was letting those who I found that were part of the dark triad drain me and even trying to attack me spiritually. Yes, that's why I told you, I said, come over to this channel to see this video tonight, because that's exactly what I think is going on, is that, like I said, if you are just somebody that never hurt somebody intentionally, I mean, you might make mistakes and hurt someone, but if you're somebody that doesn't sit there and plot and strategize, and scheme, as they said, and you're constantly just thinking about others, so a lot of times that person will become a target of those that can't quite, understand. And so they become attacked. And it really hurts. It really hurts the Light Triad, because then they think, well, what am I doing wrong? How come nobody loves me, even though I love others? And what am I doing wrong? It is a very painful place to be at. So Kimberly, I understand. And I'm really glad that this gives you some idea. And I guess what you would have to do is basically separate yourself from those that do have the dark triad, or find ways where you can be friends with them, but not allow them to exploit or manipulate you. That is what I have experienced too, is like, sometimes you can actually make friends with these people that are seeking the darkness, and then you become friends, and through this friendship, a really great dynamic evolves. And I think that's where you start to learn from each other and grow together. So yeah, but a lot of times people do want to get away from those who are narcissists in their lives. And yes, that's very important. So you just need to kind of make that decision, like, are these people that you can actually walk away from, and get some space from, so that you live a more peaceful life? Or are they people that you have to deal with because they're family members, right? And yeah, even if they're family members, sometimes you can walk away, but it's just, what are you willing to do at that point? But at least you can understand where they're coming from now and where you're coming from. Peachy Fruit, even Gandalf said it was the small things, that everyday deeds of regular folk, that gave him courage. Yeah, and he even said, I think, like, the kindness, it's not the large acts of power, but it's the kindness. So once again, yeah, Tolkien was very big on kindness, because I think it's something that he didn't see enough of in the world in the time during the war when he was alive. And he would see it in others, and he would appreciate it in them, like his wife Edith and others. But he also, I think, wanted to see more of it. So I think that's why he put kindness as a description of personalities in his book more, because be the change you wish to see, right? Like, I'm going to write kindness into my elven characters and my wizards, and even my hobbits, like Samwise, and those that really do things for others. And he really did. He brought a really beautiful story where we see that. So I'm really glad that helped you, Kimberly. That's great. Yes, now you have to put up those boundaries to keep yourself from being drained. You do, yes. And then you really can just say no, but in a loving way. And the more you do it, the easier it starts to become. You just get, because I think it's about taking that first step, saying no, and realizing that the world did not crumble, and that the other person is not too mad with you. And then that gives you a little bit more confidence, where you could just say no again, because you realize, like, oh, it's not that bad, and the person got over it. That's what I found. My board blog, thank you, and blessing to you. Well, welcome to the community, Elven Soul community. Christopher Watson, it's subtle but powerful. There's so much beauty in the subtleties. I like how you said that. It's very true. It's very true. So I think that's all. And like I said, I will put the link down below for you so that you can go to this article yourself and read up about the Light Triad personality, and you can learn more about it. But if you're interested in just, I don't know, I guess learning more about kindness and seeing good examples of it, then I highly recommend reading The Fellowship of the Rings and meeting the elves at both Lothlorien with Galadriel and also the council meeting with Elrond, and even Glorfindel when Frodo and Sam meet him on the way to Rivendell. So those three places in the book, right there in the first one, The Fellowship of the Ring, will give you great examples of kindness. And you'll see that kindness also goes along with wisdom. So kindness should never be seen as weakness, because the wisest are actually the kindest. Just remember that. So everyone have a wonderful night, and I'll see you all on the next video. Take care.